Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys are having a great day. We finally get to resume trading tomorrow. Of course, in celebration of Martin Luther King Day, there was a pause in trading today, and I was starting to get a little anxious, saying, hey, check out my portfolio. Nothing was moving up or down, and that's because nothing was happening. So with that being said, we have an important video to break down about PLTR tomorrow, because right now, a lot of people in the market, and as we're seeing just on social media, everywhere, are taking a bullish bet that we're going to see a reassumption into a higher support level for Palantir and the retesting of the 20s. Why this could be important is because if there's any potential breakout, we could see Palantir breaking its resistance and getting back into the mid-20s. And with the next earnings that is less than a month away, we have a lot to analyze for this stock. Now, if you're new to the channel or a returning viewer, we've been keeping you guys updated on PLTR, one of the biggest, trendiest stocks right now in the market. Hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a guy on YouTube collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Now, with that being said, quickly here, let's pull up Palantir's last trading session. Of course, we had that close at the 1676. And the 16s is interesting for PLTR, especially right here, as we've seen trading volume that has kind of declined a little bit. This is not necessarily a bad thing. And people assuming and questioning, taking the bet that we're in a reaccumulation phase, since from the local peak, we're down about 20%. That's at that 2185 right here. This was last year's year-to-date high. Now, Palantir is getting closer to around its 200-day moving average, which is around the 15s. And with that being said, before the Q3 results, remember that took Palantir, exploded this gap from 14 all the way to that year-to-date high. Palantir does like to trade between the 13s and the 16s, specifically having consolidation here right in the middle at the 15s. A thing that's different here is that Palantir is holding the 16s, and we haven't seen the support level that has really been traded or traded. There hasn't been a lot of price zone fluctuations in this price zone in the recent trading history. And Palantir, if we have a bullish momentum, could reassume the $17 level of support. And why I think we're having a lot of bullishness and momentum in terms of just emotion and buying pressure that could be coming into the stock is quickly look at the options trading that we saw at the last trading session. At the end of the week expirations this Friday at the $20 strike price, you see 15,000 in terms of the actual volume. With that, also at the 18 and 17.5, all over 10,000 in terms of the actual volume that's coming in, compared to the puts, not even breaking over here over 4,000 in terms of an actual put price. Now, there could be many changes, but one date that we specifically need to look at is at February 13th, and a big change that I've seen for Palantir. This is going to be one of the most important catalysts, is the earnings per share revisions that we've seen in the last 90 days. In the last 90 days, we previously saw 9 bullish revisions in terms of what analysts are expecting Palantir to report in less than a month now. Time is flying. With that, this has changed to 16. Lots of analysts are changing their revisions or revising what their expectations are for PLTR's next earnings reports. And as we know, Palantir has continued over and over again for the previous few quarters to really report great earnings. And we've seen this with the fourth quarter of GAAP profitability, which now fits the criteria for the S&P 500. This is a big thing that everybody's been talking about. I don't want to just keep pulling on the same dog's tail, but it could be happening this year. We don't know when it's going to happen, but if it does, historically, we've seen about a 5 to 7% increase in valuation just due to all of the index funds, ETFs, that do track the S&P 500. Now, also, earnings per share is at 8 cents right now. That's what the prediction is, at revenue at 602 million. I want to analyze this article here that Seeking Alpha put out, basically saying, is this dip a gift? Talking about Palantir, as we need to remember, is an older company in the fact that it's been in the game for actually 20 years, but it's only been publicly traded for 3 years. So the story here with PLTR is that it's actually almost down 57% from its all-time highs. We've seen Palantirs in the 30 before. We've seen them in these high areas. when they were not profitable. And also, it's about 22% below its local peak following the recovery rally of the last few months. Now, one of the biggest changes that we've seen in Palantir, and that I've seen personally in my opinion, is the rollout of the AIP Bootcamp and the success that we've seen with the AIP Bootcamp. And specifically here, the rapid expansion, and according to management, we've seen with 300 distinct organizations using its launch in just 5 months ago, and that the company tripled the number of AIP users in the last quarter and expects to conduct boot camps for over 140 organizations by the end of November. This was the last November. So what we're seeing here is a large expansion in the tripling of the actual utilization of the AIP boot camps. And a great business model here is that Palantir allows these potential clients to test it for free. And that's because they claim here you can have a 0 to a use case in 5 days or less. Now, also, we've seen the commercial businesses which have accelerated by 33% year over year. And the customer count also rose 12%. Now, in addition, what we've seen is proof in the pudding with Palantir. It's great to report the numbers, but what I've seen personally, what we've seen in the media, is continued frequency increases of contract extensions, number one, and new contracts coming into the game. And if you just look specifically here in the previous few months that we saw in October, November, December, especially during that November and the Santa rally, is that Palantir having continued extensions with the government, which is great because the majority right now of its revenue is coming from governmental contracts. But also what you're seeing is this diversification into different sectors. And we see this with the UK NHS service. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, make sure you watch that because we're seeing impacts made by that Palantir could be having a large effect in a positive way, bringing effectiveness to this industry, and also working to collaborate with different types of firms like PwC, bringing AI solutions to all of these different clients. So what you're seeing is a large involvement of AIP getting into many different sectors into PLTR. Now, in addition to that, they also have a free cash flow, which is pretty insane compared to the other AI stocks out there. And the fact that they have this free cash flow powerhouse, that they produce an adjusted free cash flow of 141 million in Q3, this represented a 25% margin on its quarterly revenue. And with the amount of debt that they have on hand, which is basically nothing compared to the actual cash that they have, shows you the amount of resources that they have to develop into continuing to be a top competitor into the industry. And going into 2024 here, you see this article, will Palantir be $1 trillion stock by 2035? And that's a big number. That's a big assumption to make. And of course, there's a lot of speculation behind that. But to put the numbers into an actual factual perspective, if that were to happen, Palantir needs to have an average of a 36% growth, a compounded annual growth rate of 36%. And investors should not assume that it will just get there because of the last stock year's performance. I think what we're going to see is the proof in the pudding. And with the continued contract expansions with the AIP Bootcamp, and as they start to grow and diversify, getting more involved into all these different sectors, that's where I think we're going to see, and I think AIP is going to be one of the great catalysts for the future of PLTR. I want to know, what do you guys think? Do you think we're going to see this reassumption into the 20s in the near future, or do you think we're going to see a pullback? That could definitely be possible. Pullback corrections, looking at those 14s, looking at those 15s, and for people that are still bullish on that, can get in at even a cheaper price. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out. Take care.